A significant tropical cyclone is bearing down on Western Australia's northwest coast. Derby is in the firing line for a Category 2 impact tomorrow morning, and there's a long-range signal developing in the Coral Sea that Queensland needs to be aware of. I've examined the latest from the Bureau of Meteorology and multiple forecast models. Here's what you need to know. Right now, conditions across northern Australia are about to shift dramatically. Up in the northwest Kimberley, it's been building all week. Humid, unstable air, shower activity increasing. That S about to intensify considerably as tropical low 16U strengthens into a named cyclone later tonight. This system is currently positioned roughly 500 kilometres northwest of Broome. It's been slowly organising throughout the day, but it has encountered some complications. Higher levels of wind shear have put the brakes on development this afternoon. The convection isn't as deep or as intense as it was this morning. That S reduced the likelihood of this becoming a severe tropical cyclone. Still, though, this is a significant system. And if you re anywhere between Beagle Bay and the Mitchell Plateau, you need to be paying attention. Let's look at what we're dealing with here. The Bureau has issued a cyclone warning for the Cape Levesque area, including Derby, extending up to Cygnet Bay. A cyclone watch is in place from south of Broome right up to the Mitchell Plateau. These watches and warnings aren't issued lightly. The system is forecast to reach tropical cyclone status later this evening. Further intensification to Category 2 is possible before landfall, which is expected through Saturday morning. We're re-looking at sustained winds between 125 to 140 kilometres per hour near the core as it crosses the coast. Derby is shaping up to be ground zero. The European Centre model is showing the most likely track coming in right along this stretch of coastline. There is some uncertainty about the exact crossing point, but the consensus from multiple models places it between Cape Levesque and Cygnet Bay. Derby sits right in the middle of that zone. Now, here's some perspective. Many of you remember Tropical Cyclone Haley. That crossed the coast in this very same area about a month ago. This system was shaping up to be Haley version 2. It was in a favourable environment, poised to intensify quite quickly, but that wind shear I mentioned earlier has disrupted the organisation. It is still developing, just not as rapidly as forecast models suggested 12 hours ago. The good news for population centres is that this cyclone is impacting a very sparsely populated stretch of coastline. The wind threat to major towns is fairly minimal. Broome, for example, sits far enough south and will experience offshore winds. That means lighter wind speeds in town. It's probably going to be a stretch for Broome to see gusts stronger than 100 kilometres per hour. That said, if you are in Broome, it is still a good idea to start some basic preparations. Clean up the backyard, trim any loose branches, get the cars under cover if you can, put a tarp over them if you can get them inside, strap down anything that could blow around. Outdoor furniture, bins, trampolines, anything loose becomes a projectile in strong winds. For those closer to the impact zone, Derby and surrounding communities, you've done this before. You know the drill. But it's worth going through the checklist again. Secure loose items around the property, stock up on essentials before the system arrives, battery-powered torches, portable radio, first aid kit, enough food and water for several days. Fill the bathtub with clean water before the power goes out. That gives you drinking water and flushing water if the supply gets cut. If you're in a caravan anywhere in the watch or warning zone, relocate to solid shelter. Caravans are not designed to withstand cyclone force winds. Even at Category 1 or 2 strength, it'll be a bumpy afternoon tomorrow. But for the most part, this is business as usual for northwest and Western Australia at this time of year. You're in cyclone season, you know how to handle it. The main concern I am focusing on isn't the wind, it's the rainfall. This is a tropical cyclone, which means substantial moisture. Anywhere around and to the north of the landfall site is going to cop significant falls. The northern Kimberley coastline, up to about Kalamburu, is looking at 150 to 250 millimetres through the weekend. Some spots could see 300 millimetres, that substantial rain in a short period, and there is significant inflow moisture coming in behind the system as well. That means rainfall accumulations are going to be on the heavier side. Flash flooding is possible in low-lying areas. Creeks and rivers will rise quickly. As we push through into early next week, this system remnant energy makes it down into the Pilbara and the interior of Western Australia. Around that storm centre, expect heavy showers and thunderstorm activity through parts of central WA. This is likely to cause significant interruptions to the road network. The Great Central Road between Warburton and Giles is going to cop a fair bit of water. If you're replanning to travel through that area, get it done this weekend. By Monday and Tuesday, there will be significant water on the road. The stretch between Warburton down to Laverton will also see substantial rainfall. Now, some of you may remember a very similar situation back in March or April 2024. An ex-tropical cyclone made it down into the Nullarbor region. We had record-breaking rainfall through parts of the Nullarbor, 300 to 500 millimetres in some areas. Roads were cut for weeks. This situation is similar but not identical. The ex-tropical cyclone is forecast to track down towards the Nullarbor region. However, rainfall accumulations won't be as heavy as 2024 because this system is moving faster. It's not slow moving like that previous event, or still we may see significant accumulations around the Rawlinna and Kaiguna areas. Some damage to the road network along the Nullarbor is possible. If you're replanning on crossing the Nullarbor, do it this weekend before the rainfall picks up late Sunday and through Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. Unfortunately, this system brings no relief to South Australia, New South Wales, Victoria, the ACT or Tasmania. And here, where it gets worse. Those regions are going to swelter through an intense heat wave next week. This tropical system is actually going to make it worse. As that low pressure system tracks further south, its inflow band is going to push desert heat into central New South Wales and Victoria. Only very weak sea breezes are expected. The battle between hot and cold is going to be won by the heat decisively. We're looking at very warm temperatures through parts of central New South Wales and parts of Queensland. Some areas could hit 49 degrees Celsius. One or two spots may approach 50 degrees as we head towards the middle and latter parts of next week. If you are in those areas, this heat wave is serious. Check on elderly neighbours and mates. Keep hydrated. Limit outdoor activity during peak heat. Look after your pets and livestock. Make sure they have access to shade and water. Heat stroke can kill, and it happens faster than people realise. Now let's shift focus to the second area of concern, the Coral Sea. Tropical Low 07U is currently out in the Coral Sea. This system is slowly being absorbed back into the monsoon trough. It's starting to look pretty elongated. This particular system is of no concern to Queensland. Part of its remnant energy is forecast to track over towards northern Queensland. The rest heads out towards Vanuatu and New Caledonia. This immediate system isn't worth worrying about. It's not going to bring significant impacts to Queensland at any point in the next couple of weeks. However, there is something developing that needs your attention. And I am going to be very careful about how I frame this because there's a lot of potential for misinterpretation. We are looking at long-range signals in the Coral Sea for the first week of February. I would not be bringing this up if I didn't believe it was worth monitoring, so please pay attention here. What is likely to happen in the first week of February is an area of low pressure developing around the Vanuatu and New Caledonia region. This is supported by all long-range forecast model guidance. Some of the numerical forecast models are now starting to come on board with it as well. What we're really looking at is something developing out there and then heading generally towards the Queensland coastline. Now, it is impossible to say for certain where this system would cross the coast, how strong it would be, or if it would even make it to Queensland. But there is an increasing signal of something developing and then moving westward. That is all we know right now. We can make some educated guesses, but those are the facts. As we examine the forecast model ensembles, they're recalling for multiple low-pressure centres in the Coral Sea through the first week of February. Generally speaking, the trend takes them towards the west, out towards Queensland, a few stray south towards New Zealand and Norfolk Island. But the general pattern shows something heading towards the Queensland area. This is supported by the latest Madden-Julian oscillation forecast and the latest numerical model forecasts. The European Centre model is showing something potentially significant in the Coral Sea as we push into the first week of February. Now, here's the critical part. We do not interpret forecast models this far out by looking at a single run and saying a specific location is in danger. That is plain wrong. What we look for is consistency. Run after run showing the same or a similar system in a similar location. That S, what we call a signal, and that S, what we've been seeing for the last couple of days. You are going to see posts about this on social media. You are going to see headlines. Much of it will be sensationalist rubbish. When you see images showing a specific track or a specific landfall location 2 weeks out, discard it. That S, not how meteorology works at this range. What I am telling you is that this is a signal you should be aware of. Something may develop in the Coral Sea and head generally westward. Whether that S southwest bypassing Queensland entirely or due west into North Queensland, we have no idea about the specifics right now. I am taking a bit of a gamble by pointing this out because there are many ways this could be interpreted. But along the Queensland coastline, do not interpret this as an imminent tropical cyclone threat. Just know that this is something worth checking back on in about a week's time. The forecast models have been calling for this development for the last couple of days. Long-range and ultra-long-range modelling has been calling for this for the last couple of months. Ultra-long-range modelling has gotten increasingly accurate over the last 12 months with artificial intelligence integrations and model refinements, particularly on the European Centre model. But please keep this in mind. This is not an imminent threat. I am bringing it to your attention so you are aware of what to watch for and so you don't get tricked by sensationalist coverage online. Now let's talk about what this potential system could mean for far north Queensland if it does develop and track westward. Starting Monday, we're really likely to see significant moisture streaming into far north Queensland as the current tropical low gets reclaimed by the monsoon trough. This will result in substantial rainfall accumulations for the Daintree coast, the Cassowary coast and the Cairns area, making it as far south as the lower Herbert and Townsville regions. This rainfall is going to be concentrated in the traditional wet locations across northern and far north Queensland. Don't to get your hopes up for rainfall accumulations in Townsville, Bowen or the Mackay area. The rain isn't coming for those areas. It's going to be tropical in nature, focused on the far northern coastline. From Monday onwards, we'll be watching for significant convergence zone activity. This may result in heavy rainfall, particularly for the Daintree coast through Tuesday and Wednesday, then the Cassowary coast Wednesday and Thursday. The rainfall should tend back to showers through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, with accumulations easing off around that time. Weekly rainfall accumulations around the Cassowary coast could approach 3, 4, even 500 millimetres in one or two locations. Nothing crazy for this time of year, but still half-decent falls. For the southeast coast of the Gulf of Carpentaria, hit or miss accumulations between 100 and 300 millimetres are possible, mainly for coastal locations in the west coast of Cape York Peninsula. Rainfall will be lighter on the northwestern Queensland coast into the Gulf country. This is more of a Cape York Peninsula weather event. Let me address something Ivy noticed in discussions about February. Many of you remember I mentioned months ago that February was shaping up to be very wet for Queensland. It is looking like that forecast is coming together. The monsoon is active, moisture is abundant, sea surface temperatures in the Coral Sea are well above average. All the ingredients are in place for an active tropical period. You've seen this pattern before. The wet season building through January, then really firing up in February and March. That is exactly what we are looking at. But wet season doesn't automatically mean destructive cyclones. It means tropical rainfall, monsoon activity, and the potential for systems to develop. The key is being prepared without panicking. You know what wet season looks like in far north Queensland. Heavy rain, localised flooding, roads cut, power outages, the usual challenges. Make sure your property is prepared, clean out the gutters and drains, check your emergency supplies, know your evacuation routes if you are in a flood-prone area. For those further south in Queensland, the pattern is different. Southeast Queensland and central Queensland are looking at continued dry, hot conditions. Brisbane hasn't seen decent rain in weeks. The water catchments need it. But this tropical activity isn't going to help you. The moisture stays north. That's the frustrating thing about Queensland's climate. The north can be drowning while the south bakes. It's always been that way. Looking at the bigger picture across eastern Australia, that heat wave I mentioned earlier is going to dominate the weather story next week. From central Queensland down through New South Wales, Victoria and into South Australia, temperatures are climbing. Some areas in inland New South Wales and Queensland could see temperatures approach or exceed 50 degrees. 50 degrees Celsius. That's Burke in January 1939 territory. That S approaching the Australian record. Now, I am not saying we'll break the record, but we are going to get uncomfortably close in some inland locations. This is extreme heat. Not just uncomfortable, dangerous. If you are working outdoors, reschedule for early morning or evening. The middle of the day is going to be brutal. Tradies, farmers, anyone working outside, please take this seriously. Heat exhaustion and heat stroke can happen quickly, even to fit, healthy people. For those with livestock, this is a major concern. Make sure animals have access to shade and plenty of water. Check on them multiple times a day. Heat stress in livestock can cause significant losses. Bushfire danger is also elevated. With these temperatures and dry conditions, any fire that starts will spread rapidly. Check the fire danger rating daily. Know if there is a total fire ban in your area. Total fire ban means no fires whatsoever, no barbecues, no outdoor burning, no machinery that could create a spark. If you are in a bushfire-prone area, now is the time to review your bushfire plan. Leaving early is always the safest option. On days of catastrophic fire danger, do not stay and defend. The conditions are too extreme. Many of you lived through Ash Wednesday. 16 February 1983, 75 people dead, thousands of homes destroyed. You remember what extreme fire weather looks like. The current pattern isn't quite at that level, but it's in the same ballpark. Respect it. For the southern states, there is no relief in sight. The blocking high pressure system is keeping any meaningful weather systems well to the south. No rain, no cool changes, just relentless heat through next week. Tasmania is in a slightly better position. You are getting some cooler overnight temperatures. Hobart saw -2 this morning with frost across northern suburbs, but daytime temperatures are still climbing. By midweek, even Hobart will be dealing with temperatures in the low 30s. Adelaide has had pleasant weather this week, 24 degrees and sunny. Enjoy it while it lasts. By Tuesday, you'll be pushing towards 40 degrees. The temperature jump is going to be sudden and significant. Melbourne hit 32 today, bloody hot for this time of year. Spring weather that feels more like midsummer, and it's only going to get hotter. Wednesday and Thursday are looking particularly brutal. Temperatures in the high 30s to low 40s across much of Victoria. The Mallee and Wimmera regions will see the worst of it. 45 degrees is possible in some areas. If you are in those regions, minimise outdoor activity. Stay in air-conditioned spaces if possible. If you don't have air conditioning, shopping centres and libraries are good options during the day. For Sydney and the Central Coast, the heat builds through early next week. Monday and Tuesday are looking warm but manageable. Wednesday is when it really kicks in. Western Sydney could hit 45 degrees. The coast will be slightly cooler with sea breezes, but still uncomfortably hot. The concern for Sydney is if those sea breezes fail to develop. Without the cooling influence from the ocean, the entire basin heats up. We've seen that pattern before. It's miserable when it happens. Canberra is going to cop it as well. The ACT sits in a basin, which means heat gets trapped. 40-degree days are likely Wednesday and Thursday. If you're in Canberra, plan accordingly. Avoid the middle of the day. Stay hydrated. Check on elderly neighbours. Now, I want to address something about weather reporting in general. There's been a lot of criticism lately about fear-mongering and sensationalism in weather coverage. People complaining that every weather system gets hyped as the storm of the century. Fair criticism. There's a lot of rubbish out there, clickbait headlines, dramatic language designed to generate clicks rather than inform. It is frustrating because it undermines trust in legitimate weather warnings. Here is my approach. I give you the data, the forecast models, and the likely outcomes based on current information. I don't exaggerate, I don't downplay. The tropical cyclone heading for Derby is a significant system that requires preparation. It's not the end of the world. The heat wave next week is serious and potentially dangerous. It is not unprecedented, but it's bad enough to warrant attention. The potential Coral Sea development is a signal worth monitoring. It's not a confirmed cyclone bearing down on Queensland. It is a pattern that could develop into something significant, or it could fall apart. We'll know more in a week. That is the honest assessment. No drama, no panic, just the facts and what they mean for you. For those in Western Australia dealing with the immediate cyclone threat, you know what to do. You've done this before, but complacency kills. Every cyclone is different. Every landfall brings unique challenges. Take the warning seriously. Prepare your property. Stock up on essentials. Keep your phones charged. Have a battery-powered radio for updates if the power goes out. For those in the heatwave zone, pace yourself. This isn't a sprint. It's multiple days of extreme heat. Your body needs time to acclimatise. Drink water before you feel thirsty. Wear light-coloured, loose-fitting clothing. Avoid alcohol, which dehydrates you faster. For Far North Queensland, watching the monsoon develop, you are entering your traditional wet season pattern. Heavy rain is part of life up there this time of year. But don't to become complacent about flooding. Flash flooding can happen quickly. If it's flooded, forget it. That's the SES slogan for good reason. Never drive through floodwater. You can see what S underneath. You don't know how deep it is. You don't know if the road is still there. Looking ahead beyond next week, the pattern stays active. Western Australia S cyclone season runs through to April. We re-only in late January. More systems are likely. The Coral Sea remains a watch zone through February and March. Southeast Australia S heatwave will eventually break, probably with a strong cold front, but that S still a week or more away. This is shaping up to be an active period for Australian weather. Multiple systems, multiple threats, different regions dealing with different challenges. It requires attention without panic, preparation without paranoia. You've all lived through significant weather events before. Cyclone Tracy, Christmas Eve 1974, Darwin destroyed. Winds up to 217 kilometres per hour. That was a catastrophic event. The current system, 1T, reached those extremes. Black Saturday, 7th February 2009, Victoria, 173 dead. Entire towns destroyed. That was extreme fire weather combined with dry conditions. Next week, heatwave is serious, but we re-not at Black Saturday conditions. Not yet anyway. The 2011 Queensland floods, Brisbane and Toowoomba underwater, 33 people dead, billions in damage. The current monsoon activity in far north Queensland could produce heavy rain, but we're not looking at that kind of widespread catastrophic flooding. Not at this stage. The point is, you have perspective. You know what real disasters look like. You know the difference between a significant weather event and a catastrophe. Use that experience. Don't ignore warnings, but don't panic over every forecast either. The Bureau of Meteorology issues warnings based on specific criteria. When they issue a cyclone warning, take it seriously. When they issue a severe weather warning for extreme heat, pay attention. When they issue flood warnings, act accordingly. These aren't suggestions. They re-official warnings based on data and expertise. At the same time, be skeptical of social media posts showing dramatic forecast models 2 weeks out. Be skeptical of headlines screaming about once-in-a-century events when the actual forecast is for moderate impacts. Use official sources, Bureau of Meteorology, State Emergency Services, Rural Fire Service. These are the authorities worth listening to. For the Western Australia cyclone, keep monitoring bomb updates. The situation can change, the track could shift, the intensity could vary. What looks like a Category 2 system now could strengthen or weaken. Stay informed, check updates regularly. The Bureau's website has the latest warnings and forecasts. For the heatwave, fire danger ratings are updated daily. Check them. Catastrophic means don't stay and defend under any circumstances. Extreme means conditions are very dangerous. Severe means fires will be difficult to control. Even on lower ratings, be careful. Conditions can escalate quickly. For Queensland's monsoon and the potential Coral Sea development, patience is required. We'll know more about that potential system in 5 to 7 days. The numerical models will come into range. The pattern will clarify. Until then, just be aware it is something to monitor. I'll be tracking all of these systems closely. Updates will come as the situations develop. The Western Australia cyclone will be the immediate focus through this weekend. The heat wave across the southeast dominates early next week. The Coral Sea development becomes clearer by the end of next week. This is an active period for Australian weather. Multiple systems requiring attention, but you've handled complex weather situations before. You know how to prepare, you know how to respond. Trust that experience, stay informed, act appropriately. That is the situation as it stands right now. A tropical cyclone impacting northwestern Western Australia tomorrow, an intense heat wave building across southeastern Australia next week, active monsoon conditions in far north Queensland, and a potential development in the Coral Sea that needs monitoring but not panic. Stay safe. Look after your mates and neighbours. Check on elderly people in your community, especially during the heat wave. Prepare your properties for the conditions you are facing. And keep monitoring official sources for updates. This is Australian weather. It is challenging, it is variable, it is sometimes extreme, but you know how to handle it.